Last July, I gave up on my own back porch. I had the citronella candles burning, a plug-in fogger humming by the door, and a can of spray sitting on the railing like a loaded weapon, and I still walked back inside covered in bites. Meanwhile, my neighbor was out on her porch in a tank top and shorts, sipping iced tea, completely untouched, like the mosquitoes had drawn a line straight down the middle of our 2 yards and agreed to leave her alone. It drove me a little crazy. I assumed she had some expensive system I had never heard of. The thing keeping her porch clear was sitting in plain sight the whole time, in a few pots around her steps that I had walked past 100 times. In this video, I am going to show you 8 plants mosquitoes cannot stand. The ones that do more for your porch than that pile of half-empty spray cans in the garage. Before I get into the list, do me a quick favor and tell me in the comments which corner of your yard the mosquitoes hit you the hardest. The porch, the patio, near the garden, or down along the fence. I read those, and they usually end up deciding what I cover next. And stay until the end, because I will show you 3 plants sitting around a lot of American porches right now that are quietly breeding the very mosquitoes you are trying to chase off. Why the usual mosquito stuff never quite fixes it. If this helped, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from today. Before we touch the plants, there is one idea that makes the whole list click. When mosquitoes take over the porch, most of us reach for the same few things. We light citronella candles. We plug in a fogger, or one of those little ultrasonic gadgets by the door. Some of us spray down the deck before company shows up. Every one of those can do a little something, so I am not going to stand here and tell you they are all worthless. A citronella candle really does put some scent in the air. The trouble is, the air around your porch never sits still. One soft breeze and that thin ring of protection drifts off across the yard, and you are back to swatting your arms before the burgers come off the grill. A spray or a fogger can knock down the mosquitoes flying tonight. But if there is still a saucer of water under a flower pot, a clogged gutter, or a kiddie pool sitting half full behind the shed, brand new mosquitoes are hatching while you pat yourself on the back for a job well done. What ties this whole list together is how a mosquito actually finds you in the first place. They do not really spot you across the yard and come flying. They lock onto the carbon dioxide in your breath, the heat coming off your body, the sweat and scent on your skin, and the smell of standing water where the females want to lay their eggs. That is their entire map, and almost all of it is built out of smell. That is exactly the weakness these plants go after. A strong-smelling plant does not poison anything. It throws static over the part of the map that is supposed to lead a mosquito straight to your ankle. My grandmother worked this out long before anybody was bottling it and selling it. She kept the nicest porch on her street, and I cannot remember her ever buying a single mosquito product. She just grew the right things in the right pots, and you could sit out there the whole evening without one bite. So here is what was in those pots. Number 1. Citronella grass. We might as well start with the name everybody already half recognizes. Most people get fooled right here, so let me clear it up before we go further. The citronella candle on the store shelf and the living citronella plant are 2 very different things, and they do not work the same way. Most of those candles contain only a whisper of real citronella oil, which is why sitting next to one can feel like bringing a squirt gun to a house fire. The actual plant, citronella grass, is a tall tropical grass that can shoot up to 5 or 6 feet in a good summer. The oil lives inside the leaves, and the smell really wakes up when you brush against it or crush a blade between your fingers. That oil is loaded with compounds like citronellol and geraniol, and to a mosquito tracking you by scent, a big clump of it near the steps is a wall of noise sitting right on top of the trail it was trying to follow. It does not smell bad to us. It smells lemony and sharp, the kind of thing you notice for a second and then forget about. One thing to know going in. This is a tender plant that wants heat, full sun, and rich soil that drains well. If you live somewhere warm, zones 9 through 11, you can plant it in the ground, and let it grow into a small hedge by the porch. Everywhere colder, grow it in a big pot so you can drag it inside before the first frost, because one cold night will finish it off. Set it where you actually sit, beside the steps, near the patio chairs, by the door you go in and out of all evening, so you keep brushing past it and waking the scent up without even trying. Number 2. Lavender. If citronella is the loud one, lavender is the plant that makes the whole porch smell like a spa while it works. People grow it for the color and the calm, and meanwhile it is pulling a second shift keeping mosquitoes off the deck. The scent comes from compounds called linalool and linaloyl acetate, the same oils that show up in candles and bath soaps people pay good money for. We find it relaxing. A mosquito reading the air for your breath and your body heat finds it confusing, with the signal it was chasing buried under all that fragrance. Lavender oil has actually held up well in repellent testing, which is more than you can say for a lot of plants with a nice reputation. The catch is that people love lavender to death. Rich soil, compost piled at the base, mulch jammed against the stems, water every single day like it is a tomato. Lavender wants the opposite kind of life. Full sun, lean gritty soil, sharp drainage, a good drink while it gets established, and then mostly left alone. Treat it a little rough and it rewards you. In a colder climate, look for the English types, like Munstead and Hidcote, which take a real winter down to about zone 5. Down south, where the summers turn wet and brutal, go with a tougher hybrid, like Phenomenal, which shrugs off humidity that would melt the others by August. Plant a row of it along the front of the porch where it gets blasted with sun, and you get the scent barrier and a porch that smells incredible at the same time. Number 3. Marigold. Now we get to the workhorse, the cheap little flower your grandmother probably had lined up along the walk without ever explaining why. Marigolds are not glamorous, and that is sort of the point. They are the bouncer standing at the edge of the patio in a bright orange shirt, not the guest of honor. Marigolds, the Tagetes kinds like French marigolds, give off a sharp, peppery smell that a lot of insects would rather rout around. That scent comes partly from limonene and a group of compounds the plants carry in their leaves and roots. Now let me be honest, because there is a myth that needs handling. Do not confuse marigolds with the pyrethrum daisy and assume every marigold is packed with bug-killing pyrethrins. They are not. A marigold is not a weapon. It is closer to a gatekeeper in a cheap costume, making the edge of your porch a little less inviting so the mosquitoes drift somewhere easier. Where they earn their keep is the border. Mosquitoes love the messy edges, the damp transition where the lawn meets the flower bed, and the shady corner of the porch. A tight row of French marigolds along a walkway, around the base of the steps, or in a window box by the door makes that whole zone feel less neglected and a little hostile to a bug looking for an easy approach. Give them full sun, pinch off the spent blooms so they keep going, and do not let the ground underneath stay soggy. A damp, weedy marigold bed helps nobody. Number 4. Basil. And not the sad little clamshell of basil from the grocery store. I mean basil planted as a real fixture by the porch, because the two are barely the same experience. Keep an eye out for lemon basil in particular, which carries an extra citrus punch that mosquitoes seem to hate even more than the regular kind. Basil is unusual on this list because you do not have to crush it or burn it to get the effect. It pushes its oils into the warm air on its own, all day, just sitting there in the heat. Those oils carry compounds like citronellol and limonene, with a hit of citrol in the lemon types, and to a mosquito homing in on carbon dioxide and skin scent, a thriving pot of basil muddies the trail. There is a reason gardeners have tucked basil next to the patio for generations and called it a 2-for-1, dinner and a bug deterrent out of the same pot. The nice part is that basil is genuinely useful while it protects you. You get pesto, you get something to throw on a tomato, and you get fewer bites, all from one plant. It wants warmth, at least 6 hours of sun, and soil that stays evenly moist, which makes it one of the easier plants here to keep alive. Pinch the tops every so often, so it stays bushy instead of going tall and leggy, and park a couple of big pots right on the porch steps or the patio table where you sit. The closer it is to you, the more it earns its spot. By now I am genuinely curious how your porch is stacking up. How many of these are already growing somewhere around your place without you realizing they were doing anything? Drop a number in the comments. Citronella, lavender, marigold, basil, or be honest and tell me it is just an empty pot and a citronella candle that quit working sometime in June. No judgment. That was me last summer. Now let me show you the one on this list that actually surprised me, because it beats what is in the spray can. Number 5. Catnip. This is the plant nobody expects, and it might be the strongest name on the whole list. Yes, the same catnip that turns your cat into a wobbling, purring mess on the kitchen floor. The thing that sends cats over the moon does the exact opposite to mosquitoes. The active compound is called nepetalactone, and this is not garden folklore. Researchers at Iowa State University tested it and found it roughly 10 times better at repelling mosquitoes than DEET, the chemical in most of the sprays you have been buying. 10 times. A weed that grows like it is trying to take over the county outperformed the bottle you paid good money for. To a mosquito tracking your breath and your warmth, a healthy stand of catnip is less a scent barrier and more a slammed door. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a practical tip like this. 2 warnings though. First, catnip spreads with real enthusiasm, so unless you want it marching across the whole yard, keep it in a pot or a contained bed. Second, and you already see this coming, it pulls in every cat in the neighborhood. Plant it by the porch, and you may find a furry visitor sprawled in it at 2 in the afternoon like it owns the place. If that is a deal breaker, tuck it a little farther from the door. It still works on the mosquitoes from a few feet away. Give it sun, give it decent drainage, and otherwise, just try to keep up with it. Number 6. Lemongrass. If the name rings a bell, that is because lemongrass is a close cousin of citronella grass, from the same family, carrying a lot of the same oils. It is basically citronella that you can also cook with, which is the part I like. Lemongrass is tall, arching, and bright green, and like its cousin, it stores its oils, citronella and geraniol among them, right there in the leaves. Run your hand along it, and you get that clean lemon snap, and that snap is exactly what a mosquito is hoping not to fly into. Where you have got it growing, the air carries a citrus signal that sits right over the scent trail a mosquito is following, and the bug loses the thread. It asks for the same things citronella does: heat, full sun, and room to clump up, with rich soil that drains. In warm zones, it comes back year after year and can get genuinely large. In cooler regions, grow it in a pot, treat it like a house guest, and bring it in before frost, because a hard freeze ends the relationship. A couple of big clumps flanking the porch steps look good, smell great, and keep the air around your chair working against the mosquitoes the whole time you sit there. When you are done for the season, you can pull a few stalks for soup, which is more than your bug spray ever offered you. Number 7. Rosemary. Most people file rosemary under cooking and never think about the yard, but a big rosemary plant near the porch is one of the strongest smelling things you can grow. That resin-heavy, almost piney scent is doing more than seasoning your chicken. The smell comes from compounds like cineole, camphor, and pinene, and it is sharp enough that mosquitoes would rather not push through it. To us it reads as something roasting in the oven on a Sunday. To a mosquito reading the air for the carbon dioxide and skin scent that mean a meal, it lands as a thick smudge across the part of the map that matters. There is an old patio trick of tossing a sprig of rosemary onto the grill coals, and the smoke clears a surprising amount of space, but you get a milder version of the same effect just from a healthy plant nearby. Rosemary is also one of the lower maintenance options here, which I appreciate. It is drought tough, it does not need babying, and in mild climates it can grow into a small shrub. It wants full sun, dryish soil, and good airflow. So whatever you do, do not stuff it into a dark, damp corner and expect much. Give it a sunny spot by the steps or the barbecue, somewhere you will brush past it on the way to your chair, and let that scent go to work on the air around the porch. Number 8. Mint. We finish with the one that smells the most harmless and behaves the least. A few leaves for iced tea, a sprig for a mojito, that clean, cool scent everybody likes. In the garden, though, mint is not the polite neighbor. It is the house guest who turns up for a weekend and is somehow still living in your spare room 2 years later. When it comes to raw scent power, mint is hard to beat. That cool, almost icy smell comes from menthol and menthone, and to a mosquito navigating by your breath and your body heat, a big patch of peppermint is like somebody cranking a loudspeaker right in its flight path. Of the mints, I would reach for peppermint first, since it hits harder and cooler than spearmint, though both will do the job near a door or a set of steps. Mint comes with one rule you cannot ignore: contain it. Do not plant it loose in the ground and tell yourself it probably will not spread much, because it absolutely will, every single time. Grow it in pots, ideally sitting up on the patio pavers, so the roots cannot sneak down into the soil and stage a takeover. Set those pots by the porch where you sit, and the cool scent works on the mosquitoes while you keep the plant from working its way across your entire yard. Mint is fragrant, cheap, and almost impossible to kill, which is exactly why you have to keep it on a short leash. Now, before you run off to the garden center with a list of 8 plants, stay with me, because this next part matters just as much. I promised you 3 plants that might be making your mosquito problem worse, and these are the ones I would think hard about before adding near the porch, because a few of them are not just sitting there innocently. They are running a tiny mosquito hatchery right under your nose. The one thing every mosquito has to have, and no plant scent can cancel it out, is standing water. The female only needs a small amount, sometimes no more than a bottle cap, to lay her eggs. So the danger is not really these plants being toxic or attractive on their own. It is the little pools of water some of them hold. First on my watch list, bromeliads. They are beautiful. They show up in a lot of warm climate yards. And the very shape that makes them gorgeous, that tight cup of leaves in the center, is the problem. The cup holds water, and the mosquito most people worry about, the one that carries some genuinely nasty diseases, loves laying eggs in exactly that kind of small, sheltered pocket of water. You can keep bromeliads, plenty of people do, but you have to flush those cups out with the hose every few days so nothing has time to hatch. A bromeliad you never flush is a row of tiny swimming pools you are maintaining for the enemy. Second, elephant ears. The taro family with those huge dramatic leaves. The leaves are stunning, and the plant looks like something out of a jungle, which is half the appeal. The problem is the same. Water pools where the big leaves meet the stem and sits there in the heat, and any little reservoir of still water near the porch is an open invitation. If you grow them, keep an eye on those leaf pockets and the saucer underneath, and do not let water stand for long. Third, bamboo, especially the cut or broken kind. People plant bamboo for a fast privacy screen along the edge of the yard, and that part is fine. But once a stalk is cut, each hollow stub can act like a little cup, catching rain and holding it inside the joint for days. Mosquitoes find those stubs and move right in. If you have got bamboo, the fix is simple. Cut the stalks down low, just above a joint so they do not form a cup, or pack the open ends so they cannot collect water. That lesson stretches well past those 3. After every rain, take a slow walk around the porch and the yard and look for water sitting where it has no business being. The saucer under a flower pot, a clogged gutter, the kiddie pool, the wheelbarrow, the dog bowl you forgot, the tarp sagging over the woodpile. You can plant all 8 of these and still get swarmed if there is a bucket of rainwater raising a fresh batch behind the shed. The plants handle the mosquitoes coming in from elsewhere. Dumping the standing water keeps you from breeding your own. So that is the whole picture. And it is a lot cheaper and a lot kinder to your lungs than turning the porch into a cloud of chemicals every weekend. Put the right plants where you actually sit, near the steps, around the chairs, on the table, by the door. Lean on the ones that pull double duty, like the basil and the lemongrass you can cook with, and the lavender that makes the place smell like a spa. Then walk the yard after the rain and tip out the water mosquitoes are trying to breed in. That combination is what gave my neighbor the porch I was so jealous of, and the year I finally copied her, I got my own evenings back. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 8 is already growing around your place, and which one are you going to try first? And while you are down in the comments, tell me what your yard fights with the most: the mosquitoes, the gnats, the ticks, or something else entirely, because the worst offender in your yard might just be the next video on this channel. If you like the idea of a cheaper, simpler way to take back your own porch, one that starts with looking at the real problem instead of the loudest product on the shelf, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. More videos are on your screen now. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one.